Hi, I'm Brittany Pacheco.
And I'm Amber Churchwell.
And we are the Watchers in the Basement. Welcome back to our channel. Today is a very exciting episode to share with Amber because not only are we talking about Anne Rice's interview with a vampire, Amber here is a huge fan of vampire fiction, like just huge. Amber, let's start off the show by talking about how you got into vampire fiction. What is it that you love about it, and your relationship with Anne Rice's The Vampire Chronicles?
Where did it start? Well, my dad was watching a movie and I think I was like 6 or 7. I was young. I was little. And I was watching it even though it kind of spooked me, but it spooked me. And it was the Gary Oldman and Winona Ryder Dracula. So
Great movie.
I like vampires, and it kind of just became as I got older, I really got into Dracula primarily. Like, he was kind of the origin of this, and I had read it. I watched many adaptations as I could get my little grubby hands on, and then I avoided the Twilight craze, actually. I still read them, but I'm also I think I was just so upset that they were not an accurate depiction of vampires to me that I was just like, this is too frustrating. I don't understand.
Fair enough.
Then in high school, there was a vampire series it was a young adult fiction called The Chronicles of Vladimir Todd. It's a very, very good series, and I started getting really into the fan fiction scene there, and ended up writing a fan fiction and a book that both of them were consecutively the same length. They were about Dracula, and it ended up going that way and being so I started doing that, and then I spent maybe 7 years on it.
Wow, that's dedication.
Yeah, it was lots of fun, and I really enjoyed it. And I branched out into other vampire fiction, of course, and I watched The Interview with the Vampire, the 1994 one. I watched it first, and then I read the series. So it's been a long time, because I think I was maybe 14 or 16 when I last read the series. And but I really like him. And so and I still watch What We Do in the Shadows. I still watch that show. There's Dracula Daily that is going through a time accurate Dracula retelling. It's just because Dracula's written news articles and journal entries and letters, so all of those have dates on them. So somebody thought it would be clever to actually tell the story of Dracula in real time, when it actually happened. And that just ended a couple weeks ago, or a week ago, and so it's been I've been telling you offline that it's very vampire summer with and now fall with Interview. But
yes.
Yes.
So you're very, very into the vampire fiction. I mean, the fact that you wrote fan fiction, you wrote a book on vampire fan fiction. I mean, this is your thing. This is your jam. And this is what I absolutely loved about you. I mean, I love you regardless. But the very fact that the very fact that you were just so on board to talk about the AMC TV series Interview with the Vampire, and I'm so glad you were able to binge it and just, jump on here with me to talk about season 1. I'm hoping we're going to get a season 2. I haven't heard for sure if there will be a season 2.
I believe so.
Okay. Wonderful.
Unless I'm hallucinating and just getting ahead of myself, I'm pretty sure there is a season 2, because they've been definitely building up with it, because there's a lot more story to tell. And and there's also several books. Interview with the Vampire is just one book in the Vampire Chronicles by Anne Rice. It's not just the one. It's it's a whole series. And Yeah.
Right.
A lot of
And
people, like,
so
connect them.
right, you're right. So, unlike you, I was not really into, not that I'm not really into vampire fiction per se. Unfortunately, I do have to admit I was part of the Twilight craze, in my own defense.
I have
In
some funny TikToks accounts to show you
Oh
because
god.
there's this girl who does, like, she's, like, a fan of it in the but she's very critical about it.
Oh, well. In my defense, didn't know any better. I think I was also, like, high school or young adult kinda age, didn't know any better. Enjoyed the books to a degree. I think the books were far better than the movies, but my first encounter with vampires probably even goes back to, like, the black and white vampires, like, Nosferatu, Stephen King's, Salem's Lot with Barlow the vampire.
One
That was
moment, I actually can't hear you, my AirPods died.
oh, no. So, so with Stephen King's Salem's
Why are
Lot,
you
with
Mm.
Barlow. So I'm gonna mute
So
Amber
sorry. Give me
just
1 minute.
momentarily. So, going back to my experience with, Stephen King, like I said, Barlow's the scariest effing vampire of life, okay? There's no other way of putting it. Scary, scary, scary. But like Amber, I also did watch the Bram Stoker's Dracula that stars Gary Oldman as well as Winona Ryder, and I really did enjoy it. It's a little bit, it drags a little bit in certain parts, in my opinion, but at the same time, I think that we saw something that really was just captured very well cinematically. I love the look of Dracula, Gary Oldman as actual Dracula with the hair and all that stuff. He looks
Yeah.
great. So, and then also also having watched the 1994 Interview with the Vampire, the Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise, Christian Slater, Kirsten Dunst adaptation, which I think it's one of the very few movies I actually like Tom Cruise because I don't like Tom Cruise,
Yeah,
period.
I think he does well at playing Lestat's brattiness, if that makes sense.
Oh, yes. I
Like, I think he did good with
wholeheartedly
that.
agree. Wholeheartedly agree. And then also, having watched, which is another part, another book/movie from the Vampire Chronicles, which is Queen of the Damned. And, RIP Aaliyah. That
Mhm,
was, that was her last movie performance.
mhm.
But, it's not really like my thing. I don't dislike it, but it's just not like my
Yeah,
thing. What movie I really did enjoy that's more modern is Dracula Untold with
that
Lou
is my absolute favorite
Mhm.
because my love of Dracula, like, led me into, the history of, Vlad Tepes the Third, the Impaler, the real life gentleman who, like, inspired Dracula.
Mhm. Right.
So, I liked I liked the creativity and how they combined the myth with the fiction.
Mhm.
Not that's the same thing. The fiction with the fact.
There you go.
Um, I liked how they did that because, like, I don't know, I just liked it. Like,
Yeah.
it was
It's just
perfect.
it's almost like, for us who grew up reading or watching Harry Potter, like, there's just
Mhm.
something about it that just kinda captures you and it speaks to you and you just kinda run with it, and it's good, it's fine.
Yeah.
So, for me personally, when I heard that AMC was bringing Interview with the Vampire into a TV series, my first initial thought was, "Wow, we really can't come up with original content anymore. We've gotta, like, rehash things that have already been done or we have to adapt books into TV shows or movies or what have you, which has always been done.
Mhm.
But when I saw the cast for Louis Dupont du Lac
Mhm.
and saw it was Jacob Anderson, Game of Thrones' Grey Worm,
Yes.
I'm like, "Oh, hell yeah.
I got
We're
real
up in
excited.
here. We are up in here to cast a black man
Mhm.
to play Louis in New Orleans and be a black Creole. Wonderful, wonderful decision on the showrunner's part, and also Anne Rice, who served as executive producer before her passing in 2021. I loved that idea because it's so different than from what I'm assuming is the book, because I haven't read the book. I'm in the process of reading it, and there's really no like definitive way of knowing the race of
Yeah.
these characters. But for sure, based off the movie,
Mhm.
Brad Pitt is an American Creole.
Yeah.
And like I said, to one, cast a Black man to be this character, and then also to change the timeline or time period from
Yeah.
late 1700s to 1910, and to
Mhm.
see the social issues of that time. I'm like, this is just fucking brilliant.
Yeah, like I was telling you offline, all of the changes that they did, I'm not mad about. Like I'm like if anything, I'm happy about them. Like of course they had Anne Rice involved cuz which was I think a very strong factor in how well it was done. But
For sure.
also yeah, and um what I found interesting when they were at San Diego Comic-Con, and doing interviews, um,
But I'm
I was, um since I like vampire media and I've been very excited about this for a long time, I was
yeah.
eating it up. Um, all of those interviews, and there was one, the, um, Sam Reid, who plays Lestat de Laincourt, he is actually a fan of the
Mhm.
Vampire Chronicles, like, he
Yeah.
that 'cause, I love Lestat. He's, one of like, I think he's one of
You
my
always
favorite
like the
characters
bad
from
guys.
I do, but, he is such a brat, and I
Petulant
I
child.
yes, petulant child. He is, um I know, obviously, like, I'm not an apologist, he does some really, really, really shitty, horrible things, and, he is very toxic,
Mm,
but, I love him and all his, I guess,
glory.
extraness, lavishness. Like, I just like him a lot. And
Mhm.
um, so for me, I was like really, really in like watching Sam Reed like a hawk. I'm like, you're gonna be the stat. I need to know you. And yeah, he
Yes,
said that
you do.
yeah, he's like, I read all the series. I know Lestat, like I know what I'm doing. And he watched the play, like like the
Mm,
musical,
mhm,
The Vampire Lestat, he watched that, like, I think a couple of times, like, several
mhm.
times, like, he knows his stuff, and he's like so I kinda felt safe in how he was going to portray, Lestat, and I was right. It was well. All of it was well, and Jacob Anderson did an amazing job as Louis, like,
Ugh.
everyone did an amazing job, Daniel, Claudia, like, wow.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, and let's just kind of start really delving into Anne Rice's interview with the vampire. It recently released October 2nd, 2022. It's a 7-episode TV series on AMC or AMC Plus if you have it. And as previously mentioned, Anne Rice, the author of the Vampire Chronicles, including Interview with the Vampire, did serve as executive producer until her death in
Mhm.
2021. And the quick synopsis of this show is in the year 2022, the vampire Louis de Pointe du Lac lives in Dubai and seeks to tell the story of his life or afterlife to renowned journalist Daniel Molloy. Now, for those who have watched the 1994 movie with Brad Pitt, Christian Slater, Tom Cruise, these are the same characters. Okay, not the same
Mhm.
actors, of course, same characters. The interviewer, played by Christian Slater, is Daniel Molloy, and this show takes place. I think they said what 30 years
Something like
after
that. Mhm.
the initial interview that took place in San Francisco, and Daniel is who is played by Eric Boygason, has a very difficult last name for me to say. Uh, he is Daniel. His character is an older man. He has Parkinson's, but he is basically invited by Louis to pick up on their interview wherever they last let off. And I'll tell you, that scene of Daniel opening up the package from Louis, and it's all the cassettes, and he plays the what is the last recording of the interview, where I guess you could say Daniel was just kind of like, you don't know what kind of gift you have. You're wasting it, blah, blah, blah. And then, the attack, if you will. But that's enough for this Daniel to jump on a plane to Dubai and revisit Louis and go from there. I mean,
intriguing.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, I think, for one, is a chance of a lifetime. For a human lifetime, because that you're seeing a world that other humans will not see, will not know. Like, I feel like, at least for me, it's got a little bit of an honor. I'm pretty sure he does not see it that way. But
For sure.
it was, yeah, I mean, we don't know the extent of things that happened, back then, because he mentions a lot that he doesn't remember certain things because he was a drug addict at the time.
Yep.
And so Daniel says that he doesn't remember specific details and things like that, and he doesn't remember a majority of the interview. So but I guess it was significant of an impact. And I mean, he was attacked by, that's how it ended. That's like, and that's at the end of the 1994 version is he basically is asking him, he's like, okay, after hearing all of the, I guess, shit show that you went through over the past couple centuries, turn me into a vampire, please.
Right.
And that was the exact opposite of what Louis wanted and was trying to do. So of course he was pissed off.
Like, damn it. He goes, it didn't repulse you. It intrigued you, basically. Like, what have I done?
Yeah, I mean, he chose Daniel, and Daniel's, let's be honest, Daniel's a bit of a freak too. So, I mean,
well, not gonna lie.
Yeah, like, there are certain people who will definitely be disgusted by it. Louis just didn't pick one.
Well, yeah, you're right about that.
Louis definitely does not pick appropriate men. But
yeah, he's got a little bit of, his radar's broken when it comes to that. But
that's a good way to put it.
To talk further about the show, so like we said, the interview continues in Dubai, and I mean that's a long way to travel to start up this interview and to revisit the story that Louis had previously told. But we're also, of course, hearing it from a different Louis, and it's set in a different time period in New Orleans, where this Louis is not a plantation owner. He's instead a pimp.
Yeah. Man owns brothels.
Yeah. And let's see, my notes here, it basically says that the setting is primarily in a historic red light district in New Orleans called Storyville, and that was open from 1897 to 1917, and this takes place in 1910. So this was a really interesting adaptation, because once again, this Louis is a Black Creole living in New Orleans. Jim Crow laws, here and there, and Black men, Black women are trying to kind of find their way in this world, and he's still struggling with being regarded as someone more than just the color of his skin.
Yeah. And it definitely impacted his, I guess, his transformation into a vampire, because, and I wanted to touch on it, that the timeline of when Louis and Lestat meet is different in the books than it is in the show. And I actually don't even think it's been a while since I watched the 1994 one, but I think Brad Pitt just mentioned that his brother committed suicide. He didn't strictly even say, we don't see that bit. And that's kind of a key factor in the book, that it's what Louis is destroyed and distraught about his brother's passing, and that very much impacted how he just wanted he saw vampirism as like an escape from death,
Mhm.
and that was very much his origins for that. While this adaptation, Lestat and Louis meet before his brother passes away, commits suicide, and
Mhm.
he they get to have time to bond and get to know each other, and so it opened in this aspect, vampirism is more of an
Mhm.
opportunity to be powerful over the like other white men like coworkers, I guess, that co-business owners, I guess, that really diminish him very often. He has
Yeah.
more power than them now.
Yeah.
um and aligning himself with Louis, like he just has it's a entirely it's just breaking free of
Mhm. Yeah, for
social
sure.
norms.
For sure, and I mean, even with, Louis, like, amongst these white men, but he's not their equal. I mean, he'll play cards with them and do things, but he's definitely not their equal because when it's proposed that one of these men wants to buy property and kind of start his own, I don't know if it's a brothel business or not, but basically is getting intel from Louis and he offers his intel. Then they're like, oh yeah, see, he's smart boy. He goes and you can do all the work and get 10% of the cut. And it's like 10% for doing all the labor. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
there's management and then there's labor. And it's like, oh, we still think like that, do we? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So and that whole conversation does happen in front of Lestat after Lestat does see Louis in the street, unfortunately having pulled a knife on his brother. So, because his brother, poor sweet Paul, is
Mm-hmm.
preaching to these these women who work the streets.
Mm-hmm.
And so real quick, I'm going to deviate. Give a shout out to McDorks here. Thank you so much for joining us. Christian says that he has not watched the show nor the movie. That's okay. If you're
Really?
here, if you're here for spoilers, be prepared to be spoiled. It's totally
Yeah.
fine. I do highly recommend that you actually watch the 1994 version. It's amusing in many ways, but it's definitely worth the
Yeah.
watch.
Antonio Banderas is in it,
Antonio Banderas is in the
and Brad
movie.
Pitt and Tom Cruise, but
Christian Slater and a
that
very young
mm,
Kirsten Dunst, which
oh yeah,
was
she
very,
was
very
very
young.
young,
Yeah, her first
very
on-screen
young.
kiss was with Brad Pitt in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very disturbing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Christian says he's like, "Ooh, I'm watching it all. I only have seen pieces in the original." So, yeah, I definitely encourage you to
Yeah.
go and watch it all. Watch it all
Currently, we're kind of covering like the general plot, but also like pointing out the differences between the book 1994 and
in this show. Yeah, so
the
we're
show series.
oh, I didn't even like throw up the spoiler warnings. Spoiler warnings. Just kidding. Uh not kidding. But yeah, so appreciate you being here, Christian. Um so yeah, going back to what I was saying about just like the differences and with the brother, because we don't see the brother in the movie, let alone really have much time with him in the book. But
Mm-hmm.
Paul is a special person who,
Mm-hmm.
he's preaching and he's now in the show he's interfering with Louis' business. And then when Louis like tries to get him to go and he's not listening, he has like his walking stick, but he pulls the handle off and it reveals like a blade, and he puts it up to his brother's chest, and all this happens in front of Lestat. And
That's how
Lestat,
they meet.
well, that's how
Well,
Lestat,
he sees him.
he sees him and he's just kind of like, oh, this is my man. Which leads me to my next point, that in the book, at least, it's understood that these two men,
Mm-hmm.
vampires, are in a romantic relationship.
Yes.
Whereas the 1994 movie, it's more of a companionship, lifelong friends. There really isn't like too
There's
much.
tension, but there's no like confirmation or
Yeah.
any other real sign of it. And I get it. It was the 90s. Like,
90s
yeah,
were
I
a weird
get it,
time
but
anyway.
mhm,
But yeah, that's something that was like tiptoed around. So to actually
yeah,
go back to more or less the source material
mhm,
and give these characters the appropriate storylines, their appropriate personalities and sexual orientation, like
mhm,
that's what I really appreciate with, of course, Anne Rice having been part of the show as an executive producer
yeah,
because she ultimately had to sign off on these things. And I love
yeah,
that they went back to her original source material with this.
yeah, especially because I mean, they're canon, that's a thing, like, they
Yes.
are very much canon, and,
Yes.
like, the moment that, um, same-sex marriage was legalized, like, Anne Rice was just kind of like, "Cool, well, like, consider them married now." Like, it's
There we go.
like, it's a thing, that's that
Yeah.
and I feel like there's a lot of, because little old me when I was, like, 14 and I watched the 1994 movie for the first time before I read the books, I didn't know that. I just thought, like, "Wow, being a vampire is intense." And,
Yeah.
and then, I read the books and I'm just like, "Oh, that makes so much more sense." And now you kinda, like, can't, I guess, unsee it, but I
Right.
like that they're actually, like, having these, I guess, interactions, and they even talk about it later on, like,
Mhm.
about like, there's a I don't remember what episode it was, but they, um Louis asks Lestat about, um, like, if it's just men and things like that, and he's
Mhm.
just kind of like, "Whatever." I don't care.
I mean, needless to
Um
say, he's bisexual, whereas
Mhm,
Louis and this is, let me reiterate, this is 1910. You're
mhm,
also a black man in 1910 who are not who's not an equal with, his colleagues, if you will, if you can
mhm,
call them colleagues, but to also have the need to hide the fact that you are more attracted to men than to women, and then try to kind of
mhm.
force yourself to publicly be seen with women, even if they're prostitutes. Like that has to be
Yeah,
difficult. That has to be difficult for any
mhm,
person, despite their gender or their identity, their sexual orientation. Like
yeah,
this is what I really appreciate about the show. Not only that they went back to the source material, but they're also being kind of progressive with
mhm,
the story and the time and place that this takes place.
yeah,
Yeah. So
and
yes, Christian throwing up the pride flag.
yeah,
Yeah, we love everyone here.
mhm,
So yeah. So Amber, what other differences would you say there are from the book and the movie to this show?
hmm. Um, well, we kinda touched on a lot of it. The time difference taking place instead of in the late 1700s to now being in 1910.
Mhm,
Um, Louis, his originally he was an indigo. He owned indigo plantations,
mhm.
um, but that was like barely touched on. And
Yeah.
now he's a brothel owner slash pimp. But they did mention that his family originally like amounted their status from being sugarcane plantation owners. So it's kind of
Mhm,
like, okay, so I guess there's a little connection there.
mhm.
Um, and also, this is, I guess you would call this a spin off because this is not the initial interview. The initial
Right,
interview happened like what in the 70s? I don't know.
right,
Time's an illusion. It happened in like the 70s, and show is taking place like where it's picking up where that left off.
right.
So this is a secondary interview, and
Mhm,
that's a important difference. I already mentioned about the difference between when Lestat and Louis meet
mhm,
and Claudia's age. Um,
mhm.
I actually really because I think it would be very, very if she was depicted in her accurate age, I feel like it'd be very, very that's part I understand that it's part of the story and part the to see how horrible it is and how
Yeah,
horrifying it is, but I don't think I would have been prepared to see that, so
yeah.
I'm really glad that they aged her up. In the series, she's maybe, she was 5 when she was turned into a vampire.
We're talking about the book
So
series.
in the book series, yes. In the book series, she was in the books, she was 5 when she was turned.
Mhm.
And in the 1994 version, she's like 12. I'm gonna say
between
like,
between 10 and 12,
yeah, 10 and 12, and now now she's like she was like 15, 16 when she was turned.
like 14,
So
15,
yeah,
something around
like
there. So she aged her up
in the show.
ever so slightly.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
I really appreciate because we see Claudia being just as ruthless as Lestat and
Mhm.
committing a lot of crimes and stuff like that. And um, I guess because her mind mentally she is aging like a normal person and a normal
Right.
woman, but she's stuck in a 5-year-old body,
Right.
and it's a lot more horrifying and I guess grotesque
Yeah. Eh,
too. So I'm glad that they did it, but
yeah.
that's a big difference.
Huge difference. You're right. And quick shout out to Michael V here in the chat. Hi. Thank you for being here. Love you and love Christian. Uh, so you're right about Claudia having the need to age up characters to make the story a little bit more plausible. But they also kept true again to the source material that because she was so young, like her metabolism was a lot different. She was more hungry a lot of the time and needed to hunt more than the two older men. I think the finale of this run was for when it was revealed that the ages of the men, they were like in their 30s, give or take,
Mhm.
when they returned. That includes Lestat, who's much older than Louis, but that Lestat was like 34, Louis is like early to mid 30s as well, but Claudia
Mhm.
in the show is, like I said, a teenager. But when she's initially turned and she's like, "I'm so hungry." By the way Claudia is played by Bailey Bass. This is my first time ever seeing her in anything. She's a
Me too.
beautiful, beautiful young woman.
Loved it.
Also a black actress, playing a black Creole in this time period, which again, I love that the showrunners were more thoughtful about the casting. It makes
Mhm.
sense to cast Louis and Claudia as black Creole
Mhm.
uh, members of society, if you will, and still keep
Yeah.
Lestat as the Frenchman. Which, just really quick on that note, quick little tidbit. So Sam Reid, who plays Lestat de Liancourt, is actually Australian,
Mhm.
and Jacob Anderson, who plays Louis de Pointe du Lac, is actually British, but plays
Mhm.
a African American Creole. So, yeah, I think it's funny, but hey, I have no qualms with
Yeah.
your nationality or things like that. Like, if you can play the part, like play the part, like
Yeah, like
perform.
I don't speak French and I don't haven't seen any comments from any French viewers, but
Yeah,
I so think that Sam Reid did a good job sounding French.
I thought he might actually be French
Yeah, like I think
because
he did pretty good.
the accent was on par,
Mhm.
like his fluency in French was perfect.
And
I
it didn't seem to ever I guess miss. Like I
mm-mm.
don't think he slipped ever. Like
Even when
the
he was
entire
mad.
time. Yeah,
Mhm,
the entire time he sounded. And, like, I feel like also like, when he got mad, his accent got stronger, which
mhm,
I was just like, "That is phenomenal," and I
mhm.
love it, and I mean, like I said earlier, I knew I could trust Sam Reid to play Lestat honorably
Yeah.
as
Well,
a fan.
especially for him as a fan, he again
Mhm.
knows the source material. He's very invested in it. Yeah, I was blown away. I was blown away by everyone's performance. Like,
Yes.
main character,
Mhm.
reoccurring character, it doesn't matter. I was impressed with everyone's performance.
Rashid,
Right,
just
we'll talk about
yeah,
Rashid in a little bit.
we'll do it later, but, like,
Well, yeah,
oh.
that one blew me. So, but keeping on tabs with Claudia. So, as we mentioned, and this is similar to like that of the movie, and I'd have to defer to you about the book because I haven't gotten to that point in the book. But Claudia was turned at Louise' request because she was dying,
Mhm.
basically. And Lestat did turn her, therefore he is her maker, just as he is also
Mhm.
Louise' maker. So in turn, Claudia is kind of like Louis' daughter for all intents and purposes. And
Mhm.
in the show, this comes on the heels of his sister, his actual sister, who's married, has children, basically says like, this is better for me to
Yeah.
leave you behind and to say that you're dead. That way I don't have any feelings, no connection, no nothing.
Mhm.
Because
Not
she
haunted
knew
by ghosts.
exactly, like, she knew there was something amiss, right? I mean, the whole family knew, including Paul. There was something amiss about Lestat, and then, of course, after Louis was changed,
Yeah.
that there was something amiss about him. He wouldn't always come around, he only came around at night, he wore the glasses to hide the vampire-type eyes,
Mhm.
and he just struggled with family.
Not eating his nephew.
That one really concerned me. I was like, "Oh
It
my god,
really
is he really going to?"
um
Oh,
I had faith in Louis that he wasn't going to, but there
oh, I
was a
was
second of doubt. There was a second of doubt that I was just like, "No."
mhm.
And I was so, so worried, but hey, it worked out. He didn't eat his nephew, but how horrible am I a person that I kinda laughed when he said that? Like, when he was, like, like, Lestat's just kinda like, "Whatever," like, "Okay," like, Lestat kept trying to change the subject, and he's like, "I almost ate my nephew, Lestat," and I'm just like,
That's
I
because that's because Lestat is a monster, okay? And Louis, still being new to the vampire way of life, still has a sense of humanity in him. Like, he
Mhm,
hasn't forgotten what it's like to have feelings and be human and because he seemed very connected to his family. You know, a
yeah,
lot in this show, at least, is still unknown about Lestat because you kinda can't believe every word that he says because he just seems like such a piece of shit, you know, as a person or a vampire, or however you wanna spin it. So with Lestat, you're just, like, not sure, and even when
you're never sure.
I
He's
mean,
a wild card, he's the definition of wild card.
that's fair enough. One other change I wanna, kind of address, and again, I have to rely on you in terms of the books, with Claudia, because I know what happens to her character in the '94 movie, which was very sad, and that's all I'm gonna say. But with this adaptation of Claudia, she kinda goes off on her own to live her own life, and she
Yeah.
which is kinda very characteristic of a vampire because, like, usually when you're part of a coven, no matter how big or small, like,
Mhm,
you always stay together, right? So for her to, like, venture off on her own and kind of find her own way in life, and she eventually does come back a little bit more educated, a little bit more mature, you know, mentally grown, not so much physically. But she's still very much committed to Louis, not so much
mhm.
Lestat, right?
Yeah, like,
And
the rose-tinted glasses are completely off her Lestat, she's just so over.
yeah, yeah,
She's over
for
it.
sure. For sure. And so, there's a lot of periods where you see her butt heads with Lestat even upon her return because he's just kind of like, you abandoned us. So like why
Mhm,
should we welcome you back? And seeing the struggle amongst the trio at that moment and how
mhm.
Louis kind of steps in. And then now it's a fight between these two lovers.
Yeah,
Louis trying to protect Claudia from Lestat, and Lestat is just mad that Louis is, like, taking her side as opposed to taking his, and then all hell breaks loose, which is leading me
mhm,
to my next kind of little tidbit or s discussion of gifts, Amber, because for me to see and hear the discussion about the cloud gift that
mhm.
Lestat possesses was very interesting. I don't remember at all if Tom Cruise had that gift or if gifts were even talked about in the '94 movie because here, um, vampires can hear each other's thoughts even from great distances if they really put their
Mhm.
minds to it. The difference with that is that the maker supposedly cannot hear their creations, their
Yeah.
people's thoughts, which I thought was really interesting. So Louis and Claudia
I
can
thought it
talk
was
to each
interesting, and I am kind of thankful for it because imagine I mean, they're already a toxic
other. Mhm.
relationship. Imagine how that would be if Lisette could read Louis's mind. That
Oh,
would
I
be
mean,
even
things
worse.
things would have gone straight to hell a lot
Yeah,
faster, of course.
and yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of differences in gifts. I think they don't talk about it, but we do see the gift
Mhm.
in the movie,
Okay.
the cloud gift.
Okay.
Um, we like that one vampire who was walking on the ceiling in Paris. Um,
Oh, yeah. See, it's been a while since I've seen that
mhm.
movie too, so yeah.
um, and I might be wrong, but unless like I'm completely making this up, I think in the movie, Lestat did fly up when he was drinking somebody and like dropped it on the ground, and it was like I remember seeing that, so I don't know, but I also watch so many different types of vampire media that could be
Mm.
from any
They
number
all
of things. But
they all blend in together.
yeah, I mean I'm like maybe 80% sure that that's from interview, but I
Maybe.
could
I
be
wouldn't
wrong.
I wouldn't. See, now so and Christian here in the chat is saying, "This is all interesting. Let's just all, like, do a watch party with the '94
Yeah,
movie because
let's
I
do
am
it.
struggling to remember."
Let's do it. And I after my discussion with you about the different gifts that vampires can possess, I did like a lot of my research with it, and I told you most of it. But
Mhm.
what gifts are like, I mean, I guess they call them gifts in the series, but what abilities vampires are able to do in this series in the Vampire Chronicles as a whole, like this universe called the
Yeah.
Immortal Universe.
Yes.
Because they're also going to be doing the Mayfair Witches, which comes out soon. So um,
Yes.
that is combined in the Immortal Universe.
Yes, it is.
Um, so different vampire gifts that happen here in this series are different than other media. So I kind of like have like a compare and contrast
Mhm.
in the oh hi.
Real quick, shout out to Geeking Out with Melly Mel. Thank you so much for being here. Love you.
And
Appreciate you.
yes, thank you.
She says she
Um,
meant to watch the series but has not watched it. Is it worth watching? Yes.
yes.
Please do watch it.
Yes.
The
And
the
we're having a
first
watch
episode.
party for the 1994 version.
We're gonna do all the things. We're gonna do all the things. Mel, personally, because I haven't read the books, I'm actually in the process of reading the first book. Have watched the '94 movie. I don't know if you have, but the first episode alone of this TV series, hooked. Hooked after that because Grey Worm from Game of Thrones is the lead. So, yeah, you gotta watch him. He's phenomenal. Anyway, continue, Amber. The
Yes.
gifts.
Gifts. So we have they call the vampirism in general, they call it the dark gift. So
Yes.
vampirism in itself is a gift.
Mhm.
There's just gifts. You get a gift. You get a gift.
Everyone gets a gift.
Yeah,
How
we all
Oprah.
get
How Oprah.
yeah, very much. Cloud gift is basically you can fly.
Right.
That's kind of short answer. You can fly,
Right.
levitate, hover, however you want to do it.
Mhm.
There's also the fire gift, which I don't. Does Lisa do it?
I
I
don't
don't
think
know.
he does. If that's if it's what I think you're thinking, the ability to create the fire and
Yeah,
wield it, which I
pyrokinesis.
right, I don't think we did see him do that. What we did see him do, um, one, he can read people's minds and talks
Yes,
to other people, be it
mhm.
mortal or immortal.
The mind
He
gift.
the mind gift, yes. One gift that he did exhibit at least once that I can recall, or a couple times actually. I don't know what the appropriate name is, but it's like he can freeze time.
There's not an appropriate name because it does not exist in the book, or at least
Okay.
from my memory. I even like I didn't have enough time to reread the book because I have no access to it. Um, but I even checked with like other friends that I do know who have read the book too. I'm like, hey, do you remember this ever being a gift? Like
Yeah.
stopping time and time. Let's call it time manipulation.
Mhm.
I've never seen it in the Vampire Chronicles that I can remember.
And
But
it's actually a really cool gift,
yeah.
because that happened in one scene where Louis was still mortal, they're playing
Mhm.
card games. Louis doesn't have a great hand in order to win the pot, and Lestat, while he's talking to his men, he's talking to Louis through his mind, and then he just, like, freezes time and then swaps cards with Louis and the person across from him so that Louis could, have the winning hand,
Yeah.
and it was really cool that it happened, I think, maybe 1 or 2 more times in the series
Mhm.
that, uh, I think they're talking to maybe that same man that Louis, switched cards with,
I think
where
so.
I think the man was alluding to he
Mhm.
knew there was something up about Louis and Lestat because they never aged, and there was, rumors going around about,
Yeah.
maybe they're Satan worshipers and things like that, and then when he kind of, like, almost outright said, "There's
Mhm.
something, like, dark about you," whatever,
Yeah.
freezes time, Lestat freezes time, and then, like, leaves a mark, like, cuts
Mhm.
like, an X on the man's cheek, because vampires have, like, the long these vampires at least have the long nails and, like, the really intense colored eyes,
Mhm.
and so, like, that gift was really cool to see. So far,
Yeah.
the mind gift, whatever that freezing gift you wanna call, he's got the cloud gift, there's obviously super speed, super strength,
Yeah, and,
um
Lestat, because of things that I don't wanna spoil, but things that do happen in other, Vampire, Chronicles novels,
Mhm,
Lestat has a majority of these abilities, but
mhm,
mostly a lot of these abilities, that I'm going to continue talking about are actually, only the ancients really have them.
right,
Um, like the Cloud Gift, which we
mhm.
see later another vampire has, but we'll get to
We'll
him later.
we'll get there later.
We will get to him eventually because I have so much to say.
Yeah,
Other gifts, this one, I don't remember an instance of this, but again, I was trying to do a refresher. And
mhm.
there's the killing gift, which is it works on vampires and humans and anything really. And basically, it's a cardiac attack. Like it literally just basically kills something. Like
Sounds like something Darth Vader would do using the Force, and he's, like, doing this, like
yeah,
like
I
the
don't
Force choke.
remember an instance of this happening, but apparently some ancient vampires can do it. It's called the killing gift.
Okay,
Whatever.
alright.
There is the fire gift that I mentioned,
Yep,
pyrokinesis.
mhm.
Um, can control, manipulate, and start fire. Then there's what else? Mm,
There's just
oh,
a
the
plus.
rapid healing. That was one. That
Right.
was like the main one. Rapid healing because not vampire. Depends on age and it depends on like I guess blood levels, how well they heal. But oh, and also we find out later sun intolerance, but I don't think that has a name.
Ah, yes, you're very right, and that alludes to the one
Mhm.
vampire we're gonna leave to towards the end,
Ye-
because that seriously threw me for a loop.
Yeah,
So
but oh, well, before we move on though, I do want to
mhm,
mention that the time manipulation, um, that I haven't seen that in the Vampire Chronicles, but that is in other vampire media.
okay,
So it does happen with other vampires, so maybe they kind of just, I guess, bled into here, which is fine. Um,
if it
I mean,
works.
that kind of I don't know if Anne Rice would do that, but it also
Yeah.
that opens the door for other vampire abilities like shapeshifting into other animals, like
Mhm.
into
Yeah,
bats, wolves, mist.
mhm.
Mist counts as an animal here, I guess. Um,
Sure, why
and
not?
also being able to control those things and rats, another one. Um,
Mhm.
that and there was a few others, but like that's one of oh, the other one that I mentioned to you was sonic abilities of some sort or
Mhm.
sonar abilities. Like they
Right. Can hear
I think
extremely well.
yeah, I think that's like based more on like bats, like how they can
Mhm.
communicate that way. And also but I think we might have a hint of that because Claudia does scream at one point when she's mad at Lestat and it
Yeah,
shatters glass.
right.
And I'm like, I've seen that in other vampire media, include especially this most recent season of What We Do in the Shadows.
Okay.
Um, she reveals that she has this. She has this
Ah.
screeching voice that she can do, and it does shatter glass. So,
Oh my.
um,
Well,
yeah.
well,
No.
and I mean, there's a plethora of gifts that, ancient vampires or even more recent newborns, as we can call them, thanks Twilight. By the way, Melissa is a huge fan of the Twilight series, so I'm not going to really talk a whole heck of a lot, but Mel, like I told you in the chat, like give this show a shot. Like, don't knock it before you try it. But there are a little bit of similarities between uh, what Louis, as his vampire character, experiences to that of, like, let's say, the Cullens in Twilight. Louis does not prefer to murder people to hunt. He rather survive off the blood off of animals. So
Mhm.
that's kind of like, you know, uh, that kind of little parallel between the show and Twilight. So
In Twilight, it's called a vegetarian vampire.
they're vegetarian vampire. Yeah, you're right. Mel did ask the question: is Claudia portrayed as a girl like in the movie? She's actually aged a little bit older.
Mhm.
Kirsten Dunst's character, I think we determined, is between like 10 and 12,
Yeah.
and this Claudia in the show is about 14, 15, give or take. So she's
Mhm.
she's a teenager, but she's not like as young as Kirsten Dunst, and definitely not as
Yeah.
young as the Claudia in the book, which is
5.
5.
Yeah. She
So
was 5 in the books.
yeah,
5 in the books. 1994 is 10, 12, and then in this show, she's like 14, 15. Um,
yeah.
but
But she
yeah.
she gets to at least experience some life. I mean, she's got some
Mhm.
struggles, of course. She, Louis, and Lestat, they all have like a very tumultuous, toxic relationship, and again, not knowing Claudia's true outcome in the books, because this is what I actually really liked about this adaptation with the Daniel Molloy, the Eric Bogosian
Mhm.
actor. He's in Dubai. He's having this interview with Louis, and Louis actually does provide uh, diaries from Claudia. So as an interviewer, Daniel is more or less hearing firsthand everything from Claudia's perspective.
Mhm.
Her transition from human to vampire, and then the relationship that she witnessed between Lestat and Louis, and um, and how at one point, after there's a huge, huge, huge fight between Louis and Lestat, and I won't go into that because I don't want to spoil it for anyone who's interested in watching the show. But there's a period where Lestat is not with Louis and Claudia, but he's still kind of like trying to persuade them to like get back on good graces, and oh, here's an extravagant gift here and there, and Claudia's kind of like, fuck you, no one
Yeah.
wants to talk to you, you know, and
I did think
she
it was funny though that just that scene of like, I got him the exclusive copy from his like bookshop, and the piano just falls. Not the
was it the
piano, the
piano?
coffin.
I was
No, it
gonna
was the
say, I thought
coffin.
it was
Sorry, I
I was
don't know
like,
why I said.
yeah, yeah. I was like, "Oh, yeah," like, yeah, because Lestat's like, "Well, I can see Louis' silhouette." He goes, "Let him decide if he wants to talk to me." Crash. And it's like, I think that's answer enough." And it's like, "Ooh, yes, yes."
Yeah,
So, like, this show, I mean, be it it's a drama TV show, but, like,
yeah.
there's humor in it, there's just great chemistry amongst these actors, and to see the overall progression between Claudia and Lestat's relationship
Mhm.
coming to the end of it, or the end of this first season, and how, as I mentioned, the maker cannot hear its creation's thoughts. So
Yes.
Lestat can't hear Louis or Claudia's thoughts, but Claudia and Louis can talk to each other through their thoughts. And
And other
Claudia's
vampires can hear
and
too.
other vampires, true, you're right, right. But Claudia basically tells Louis, I'm gonna kill Lestat, and she's doing this, which this was I thought was brilliant, Amber,
Mhm.
because Lestat was trying to teach, quote unquote, teach Claudia how to play chess. I don't know how to play chess, so
Me either.
cool. So so he constantly berates her for, not learning from her mistakes and not learning how to play well, blah, 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 blah. But she's confident in herself. She's making her moves, and he's, berating her again. And she's talking to Louis, like, I'm sorry. Yeah, Louis, and saying, we're going to kill him. And then she checkmates, or she's like one move away from checkmating Lestat, who
Mhm.
can't handle it. He just cannot handle the fact that
He
she
is a
has
brat.
finally yes, but that she finally bested him, and he says, "Okay, we'll make your move and finish the game." She's like, "I'm tired. I'm gonna go to bed." And he's like, "No, finish the fucking game," basically, and he loses his shit.
Yeah, and that was such a power move from her. I
Oh,
loved it. I was like, "Oh, that was for
so good.
somebody," 'cause I mean, like I said, I love Lestat. So, um, knowing Lestat's character and his personality, oh, that is, like, the perfect thing she could have done to piss him off,
Mhm.
'cause it's gonna eat at his brain, and it did, very
Oh,
clearly,
yeah.
like, instantaneously, he's like, "What is wrong with her? What," like, she
She's
always says this, like
ungrateful,
mhm.
blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah,
It did what it was
he
meant to do, which
oh, but glorious.
yeah,
Praise
and
be.
sorry, Christian, I didn't mean to say piano. I kinda just randomly did that.
I mean, yeah,
I
there
don't
is a
even know where that came
piano.
from. It was a
Well,
coffin, he threw his coffin out the window,
there's a piano in the household. I mean, so it wouldn't be too far off
and it is
from
Lestat's piano.
it is because
So, I mean,
he plays,
maybe that's what he threw the next time.
you
Like,
know,
off screen, that's what he threw
good
out the
lord.
window next time.
Yeah. So, like, so let's talk about our likes, okay?
Mhm.
That whole scene I just talked about with Claudia and Lestat, the chess game, one of my likes. As I mentioned in the first episode with Louis, on the heels of his brother's death and his mom basically saying to him, "You're the reason why he died. What did you say to him to cause him to die?" And I'm gonna pose a question to you momentarily, Amber. But when Louis finally, like, has had enough, like, with Lestat, like, he goes to the church and he's gonna go confess his sins.
Mhm.
That performance alone from Jacob Anderson had me completely hooked to this show.
It was amazing. Um,
Fucking amazing.
it was so intense, like, you could feel it, like, I felt a little uncomfortable watching because I'm like, "This is a private moment."
Mhm,
Like, that's how intense it was, that I was just like, "This man is having a very intense private breakdown and confession."
mhm.
I had to, like, force myself to keep watching, but in the best way. That sounds so
Yeah,
confusing, but it was,
but you felt it.
yeah, it was visceral, and it was
Mhm,
very intense, and
mhm.
because, I mean, poor Louis, he was going through so much shit, and
Yeah.
he ended up, I mean, with dealing with like, the beautiful shit show that is this gentleman. So, I
Ah,
mean
yes. Green eyes. Love it.
yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
how many episodes? There are 7, right?
Yes, you're
8?
right. So Mel asked the question, how many episodes so far? So for season one, there are only 7 episodes. So
Mhm.
they're about
We
an
are covering
hour.
all 7. Like,
Yeah.
this is just a series review.
Like not in depth, not really, really in depth, but
Mhm.
we're gonna kind of give you like a general overall
Mhm.
kind of take on it. But yeah, season one, 7 episodes. They're each about an hour or so long.
Yeah.
Definitely worth the watch. Amber, one of your favorite moments from the episodes.
Um, so much. Like, I think there were just so many all of it. All. The
You're like,
entire thing.
"Yes."
Uh, yes. There was, some lines that I guess just kinda stuck out to me. Like, obviously, in the last episode, the reveal of the vampire who shall not be named that we will talk about later.
Yep.
Um, he that was that hit hard for me 'cause, as they were bringing it up, I was just like, "Wait, is this who I think it was?" And,
Yeah.
I ended up being correct. I was very
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah.
Um, I was very excited about that, but, I'm like as I think what my favorite parts exactly
Mhm.
were, like, certain lines, like, when, because Lestat is, like a horny bastard, and he kinda just, has like, yeah, he is, with Louis. They are basically married, but,
Mhm.
he does have, like, affairs with Antoinette, like another woman, and,
Mhm.
Louis was obviously upset about that, and so Louis met up with one of his old friends from like I guess his youth, and
Mhm.
they exchange sexual favors. And
As
Lestat,
one does.
I, eh,
Sure.
I am so asexual. It's
I
yeah,
mean, it's fine. I mean, there's that sense of kind of, well, he did the thing, so I'm gonna do the thing too.
yeah. But they
Yeah.
were fighting over it, and
Yeah.
like the performance of just that line of Lestat screaming, "I heard your hearts dancing."
Yes.
Ouch! I was like,
Poetic.
oh, I was just like script wise, beautiful.
Mhm.
Performance, beautiful. Staging,
Mhm.
lighting, everything, it was amazing. And
Yeah.
that confession scene that you mentioned in the first episode, poetic, heart-wrenching.
Oh.
And but I liked that reveal, and there's just I think if I had to like nail it down to one specific thing, it's the
Mhm.
small little things in the background
Mhm.
that I notice after the fact, like, as I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
Um, like, I think I told you about how in the place in Dubai
Mhm.
where Louis in this interview was taking place in the
Mhm.
modern day?
Yeah, modern day.
Potential future? I don't know.
No, because it is set in 2022, they do actually
Oh,
make a
yeah, you're right.
reference to coronavirus.
Yeah, you're right.
So, yeah.
Um, it was, all of the bookshelves are mounted to the freaking ceiling, and, like, and Lestat loves to read, like, you see it throughout the
You
entire
mean
series,
Louis
like yeah, it's like oh, yeah, Louis, sorry. You see Louis reading, like, he's either with books or he's reading, and,
constantly.
like, they reference it all the time,
Yeah.
or and, like, Lestat even says, like, "Go home and enjoy your good book." Like, things like that, like,
Mhm.
when he was trying to apologize, he came with a book from his favorite bookshop that was, like, a rare edition, like,
Yes.
he loves books,
I mean,
and
he
he
even called out Lestat saying,
mhm.
there's more than just having all these books and having read the cover or the first page. Like, do you
Mhm.
actually take the time to read what's inside?
Yes, and
Yeah.
so I feel like to me it was very telling because when I saw that I think it was when, I think maybe 3 or 4 the 3rd or 4th episode when we see when Claudia is introduced and, um, Daniel's character is given her diaries,
Mhm.
that was in the library room, so, like, they did a shot where it was kind of like a lower shot looking up at Daniel, and you see in the background the mounted bookshelves, and I'm like, Louis does not have the cloud gift. He
No.
cannot fly.
No.
Why
But
would he
there's
have that in his home? And that
but
kinda started
there's
getting me thinking.
but there's things, ladders, step stools.
I definitely think it's because of the vampire who shall not be named.
I know, I
It is
know. I mean,
controlling. It is just
it's
another
it's incredibly
factor.
controlling. Yeah. And this is where I said earlier that Louis has like a broken uh
Radar?
radar where he can't see that the person that he's into is just bad for him, with the exception of maybe Claudia. But then again, we will,
Yeah.
much has to be revealed in the coming season. So, uh, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great moments, a lot of great lines in this episode. I'm sorry, the series, and we talked about this offline and then kind of briefly earlier about Paul's death. Paul is Louis' younger brother.
Mm.
It happens early on in the book. It's only mentioned in the movie, in the '94 movie, but here we actually do see a Paul. We do see just his character and how Louis responds to that character, even how Lestat responds to that character, and then the big difference between Paul's death in the book and then Paul's death in the show is that Paul's death happens on his sister's wedding day or after the wedding day.
Yeah, like the
And
morning after, the
the
dawn
morning
after.
after, it was you're right. It was Louis' final sunrise. And he's on the roof of their home with Paul and they're having a discussion and Paul just kind of gives Louis a warning about Lestat, saying, he's the devil. And he told me in his mind or with his mind that he was here to kill everyone and this and that. Now, whether that was actually true or not, and this was the question I was going to pose to you, because Louis poses the same question to Lestat. Do you think Lestat had anything to do with Paul's death?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I think he was definitely Lestat is possessive. That
Very,
is very, very obvious, and
very
especially
established.
when Claudia enters the picture. He is very, very possessive.
Mhm.
That's literally what led to that line of "I heard your heart's dancing." He
Mhm.
is a possessive person, and he's very possessive of Louis. He
Very.
no matter what horrible shit he does, I still and like on all of his fucked up ways, I do think he genuinely does love Louis. Um,
Like a
yes,
domestic
yes,
abuser
Paul.
loves their victim. Sure. Yeah, sure, why
Uh,
not?
I think he loves him in his own like psychotic way.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way, like only way I can really say it. Um, Short answer, Christian, yes.
Yeah, Paul died.
Um,
You'll find out how when you watch the show, but Paul died.
yeah,
It's very sad.
it was
There's
sad because it's something that we just never saw in the books or
warning.
yeah, it was
It's pretty
yeah, sudden.
Mm.
Living for the curse words, yeah. Um, I'm still getting used to doing it, so because I don't do that on my channel, so I'm
I don't do it
getting
on my channel either, but, like, since we got back into doing podcasts with the watchers in the basement, let loose.
yeah.
Let's go.
We are allowed to say fuck here. um,
Yeah.
so yeah, so dealing with all the fucked up shit that Lestat does to Louis, I think he is very, very possessive. So he saw that, hey, there's a rival of my affections. Yeah, it's brotherly affection
Yeah.
over romantic, but this is, I've already chosen in my brain, I've already chosen Louis as my companion.
Mhm.
And this person is a threat to that. That is a
Mhm.
tie to his humanity that he's not going to want to let go of. So I think he was definitely trying to frighten or intimidate or just scare the shit out of Paul,
Yeah.
but I don't think he necessarily intended for it to become a suicide.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
I don't think he intended for it to get that far. I think he
I can
just
see
wanted
that.
to break the ties.
I can see that. I can see that.
Yeah.
And because Paul was already kind of like a troubled soul, if you will. I mean, he really wanted to dedicate his life to, God and service like that. And he did challenge Lestat at family dinner about what his relationship is with God. And Lestat tells that story and it doesn't end well. But um, to I can fully understand your way of thinking about how much of Lestat's involvement was in Paul's death. And it's valid. I think it's completely valid. If it was revealed that yes, Lestat directly had an involvement to Paul's death, it would forever destroy Louis because
Mhm.
Louis keeps going back and forth about, do I let Lestat stay in or, do I keep pride as my blanket and this and that, what have you. And he struggles with that. And this is why I say, and it's also said in the show by Daniel Molloy's character about um he only hit me once, officer, and it never is going to happen again. I mean, it happens now. It happened way back then.
Mm,
History does repeat itself from
yeah,
time to
especially
time.
when you have such a endlessly long life. Like,
And Lestat does have a very, very
yeah,
long
like
life.
a lot of people don't tend to forget that Lestat is a lot older of a vampire
Mhm.
than Louis.
Yes,
He
very much
is
so.
much older and he's already gone through so much shit
Yeah.
that he's
But
yeah.
then again, how much can you really believe from Lestat? It's very
True.
difficult. It's very difficult to know what's real and what isn't because
Yeah.
when he is welcomed back into the family, Louis and Claudia give him rules. Rule number 1, this, and so on and so on. Oh, by the way, rule number 4, kill Antoinette, your lover. And he's like, "Okay,
He
Imma let you
technically did.
I'm gonna let y'all go and find out what happened with Antoinette. Y'all go watch the show or come report back to us, okay?"
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, there's a lot of things in this show that I really did enjoy. I really enjoyed Claudia's plan to, take take out Lestat,
Yes,
and
it was well done.
all that is in the finale. Y'all just watch the show, okay? You won't be disappointed. Honestly, you really, really won't.
Yeah,
And
and
there's actually in the finale, there is a reference to the elixir of life slash philosopher's stone.
yeah,
There's your Harry Potter tie-in without being a Harry Potter tie-in, okay?
close enough.
Close enough.
And,
Yeah, it was great.
um, no, it's a phenomenal show. I recommend you guys give it a chance. It was good. I'm so biased, but give it a chance.
A little bit.
It's so good, and everyone is very well portrayed. And what I think I like is in the 1994 version with that, like everything is seen as very, very toxic anyway,
Mhm.
but we're seeing it from these characters' point of view, and it's never like, I guess, addressed that, yeah, this is toxic, horrible behavior. This is
Oh, yeah.
abuse.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I loved that the show like highlighted that. They're like, hey, like, I don't know if you realize this, bro, but you are being abused.
And
And
this
yeah,
continues with the vampire that we are now going to talk about,
okay.
at least according to your theory of a couple of things with this particular, vampire. So Amber, please kinda introduce us to the character and then who this character actually is.
So, we see this guy from episode 1. He is a guess you would call him like a butler slash
Valet.
assistant slash valet. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a gopher. Um
Mhm.
he for Louis.
Yep.
And he's always there. He's always and his name is Rashid, and he is obviously very protective of his master Louis. He's very
He refers to him
like
as a god.
yeah, does refer to him as a god.
Mhm.
And Daniel has like a couple of interactions with him throughout the series. Like very he's I guess he's very intrigued about what this man's life is like
Mhm.
when living with a vampire and serving a
Yeah.
vampire because um I don't know if they're going to touch on it, but in the Vampire Chronicles universe, vampires do sometimes keep humans as pets. That is a thing. um,
It's no different than what the Volturi did in Twilight. They would employ mortals and
mhm.
then kill them
Yeah,
eventually.
that's exactly also the plot of What We Do in the Shadows. There's a
There you
familiar,
go. Okay.
a human familiar that just does all their dirty work.
Mm,
Um, no, it's they do keep them as pets, and they refer to them as pets.
okay.
So I guess, like, Daniel's kind of, like, intrigued by this, like and then
Mhm.
we do see Rashid praying, um, and Daniel brings up, like, how does that, like,
In
correlate with,
daylight?
yeah, in daylight, and, like, how does that correlate with vampires and everything like that? Um, and he has, like, some very interesting little key references here, and I guess he has his eyes on Rashid, and we all should have had our eyes on Rashid. I did, because I just thought it was messed up. There were
Yeah.
certain things that stood out to Daniel, like, you do see Louis eating. One thing he does is he eats, he feeds on, like, a live little, like, phoenix fox, which broke my heart.
What's
He
that?
also has, like, a glass of wine blood, like,
Mhm.
like, it looks like wine, but
It's
it's a
blood.
wine glass, but it's blood.
He's got a soup
Um,
bowl of blood
Soup
in
bowl,
him
yeah, like, he has blood in a multitude of ways. Um,
and feeds off other people.
yeah, and he does feed off of people, but it's, like, more of a donation instead of, like, killing them. So,
Mhm.
there's, like, this big, buff Russian man, and that man was after, Louis was drinking from him for a little bit, he is, like, stumbling off into the hallway, and
Mhm.
then, um, a couple episodes later, he feeds off of Rashid, and Rashid is totally fine.
I mean, you do see the color drain a little bit from his
Mhm.
face, but he doesn't show the same behaviors like that Russian man.
Yeah, but like body size and body metrics and
Yes.
it
Yep.
just it didn't make sense. And
Yep.
Daniel caught on to that, which
Mhm.
we should have too. It was
We really should have.
great. And he starts having like memories and things like that, and through dreams
Mhm.
that he has seen Rashid before, and
Mhm.
it is confirmed. So, another thing that Rashid always did throughout the series and about multiple episodes is he was more outspoken than a valet or butler or servant should be.
Yeah,
He
for sure.
would cut into conversation. He
Yep.
spoke like he would have his hand on Louis's shoulder and speak for him. Like he
Mhm.
doesn't like to speak of Claudia.
Mhm.
Things like that. Like it's like that's for a servant to do that, that's presumptuous.
A little
And
bit.
Daniel caught on that.
Yep.
And um
He's like, "Oh, I
in the
struck a nerve. Let's investigate more," because he's an investigative journalist.
mhm. So he's literally just man's just doing his job.
Yep.
So in the finale, um Louis is triggered.
Oh, is
Um
he triggered? My god.
yeah, that's short answer is he is triggered because they have reached the point of the story when they're talking about um how Claudia and Louis killed Lestat.
I
And
was I was about to
they're
start singing a Phantom of the Opera, "Past the point of no return."
oh my gosh, off screen I just rewatched an old version of the Opera from like 1990 and
Oh, we're gonna be doing a pod on Phantom of the Opera one day, y'all. Don't worry. We're it's coming. It's coming.
I have like you guys think I love vampires? You guys think I love
Oh,
Harry Potter?
it's Phantom.
Yeah.
It's
I've
Phantom.
loved Phantom since I was
I
10
already
years
know
old.
this.
First. It's yeah.
Anyway, back
Anyway,
to the show.
back to Louis' trauma.
Yes.
So he loves Lestat, and so it's definitely horrible and traumatizing, and like PTSD to relive that. And he was trying to tell a version of the story that was so detached and I guess disconnected from the actual events.
Yeah.
But Daniel, being an investigative reporter, like you mentioned, he pushes. He's like,
Yep.
wait, no, you knew certain things.
Yeah.
Like, why would you do this? Or why would Claudia do this or say this? But
Mhm.
and he was kind of, it started
Oh,
triggering Louis and he
the
started breaking
trans
down.
the transformation on his face, on
Mhm.
Louis' face, like, he looked like he was ready to kill Daniel at
Yeah.
that moment, and it
Like he was
was
fighting it.
glorious. Yes.
And um he eventually goes into this room. I don't really know what to call this room, but it has an
Like a
artificial tree.
library.
Yeah, let's call it the library. He goes into this room that has an artificial tree, artificial sunlight, and like fake rocks, and he just sticks his feet into the ground, like trying to like I guess bring him calm himself, center himself, what have you. And this is also the room with the floating library with the floating bookshelves. Keep that in mind. And I'm painting a picture here, guys. And
Really are.
yep, I loved it. I'm telling you,
Yep.
it was one of my favorite parts.
Yep.
Um,
And Daniel and Rashid follow Louis because
mhm,
Daniel just, like, he won't let this go. He's
yeah.
prying, he wants answers.
Was it raining, Louis? Like, why couldn't you burn him? Was it raining? Like,
Yeah.
very good points. Um,
Mhm.
because they said that they couldn't burn him, they couldn't do this, and like kind of making excuses, I guess, for himself,
Mhm.
and trying to reason away
Mhm.
what he did.
Right.
And Daniel wasn't having any of that shit. So
Nope. Nope.
he was
Nope.
going after him, and Rashid goes after Daniel. Like, you need to stop. You need to stop. Like, whatever. And
Mhm.
he starts flying because
Well,
he has.
before that
Yeah,
before
go.
that,
You do.
you
You
see
take
him
over, please.
you
I'm too
see
excited.
you see Rashid in the background. Okay, so Daniel in one scene, he's in the foreground, Rashid is in the background, and then it'll cut back and forth between
Mhm.
them and Louis. But in the background, you see that Rashid is taking off his gloves because at all times he is wearing black gloves. I mentioned earlier that
Yes.
vampires have long fingernails.
They're white. They're almost white, but
They're
and
almost white
long and sharp.
and pointed.
Mhm.
And again, in the background, you see Rashid take off contact lenses. And then he starts levitating. And Daniel's like, the fuck, like he just can't believe this because one, he has now uh reconciled with his memory of having seen Rashid 30 years prior in San Francisco when he first met Louis to start this
Mhm.
conversation, and now seeing that Rashid has the cloud gift and has these red eyes that are very similar to that of Claudia's. They it's a big shocker, and you see Rashid fly over to the elevated bookcase to
Mhm.
retrieve a book that has, like, I guess you could say, like, the plastic sleeves, has, ancient type
Yeah.
uh
Text.
pamphlets or texts or whatever.
Mhm.
And Daniel's asking him, he's like, "But wait a minute, like, you could be in the sun. Like, how did the sun not burn off your skin like any other vampire?" And
Mhm.
Rashid says, "Well, the sun, after 500 years, the sun doesn't really, like, affect you like it once did." And I'm thinking,
He called
"Holy."
the sun meager, and to me, that I
Yes.
kind of chuckled a little bit. I'm like, "Are there other suns that you think are more impressive?" Like,
Well, yeah, maybe so.
"Your meager sun can't
Your
hurt
meager
me."
son. Yeah, but him saying, after 500 years,
Mhm.
this and that. He flies over, hands off the book, goes and stands next to Louis.
I'm
Eh
pretty sure he's still hovering, actually. Like, I'm
Actually, I
pretty
think you're
sure
right. He is
he's
hovering.
hovering
You're absolutely right.
'cause there's a
So
significant height difference.
there is, and there's definite, like, a power stance in this in as well. But they interlock fingers, hands, and then Louis introduces the vampire Armand to
Yes.
Daniel. End
Armand.
scene. End
Which,
scene.
for those who, are not as familiar with the characters but have seen the 1994 movie, it's Antonio Banderas.
Mhm.
Antonio Banderas' character, Armand, is Rashid, and the review I called it, like, the second before they
You did.
introduced him, I was just like, "Armand, Armand, Armand," and, then when he
Yep.
said, "Let me introduce you to the vampire Armand." Um, one thing I did notice that, Armand did slash Rashid did say
Mhm.
was, "Because I won't save you this time like I did then," about to
Ah.
Daniel, because like, Daniel was just like, "Why shouldn't I? Like, why shouldn't I bring this up? Like, why are you" and I think it's kind of funny that Daniel referred to himself as a whore, because like, in the beginning of the series, we see, Louis paying, one of the whores in his brothel, but
Mhm.
they don't have adult relations. They just have, they just talk.
Yeah.
So, Daniel actually points that out. He's just like, "Look at you. You're still the pimp paying a whore to talk to you." Or in the like, ouch.
Bam.
Yeah, that
It's like,
ouch.
bam.
Yeah, that was a sick burn, man.
A little bit.
Um,
A little bit.
but, like, he was, like, asking, he's like, "Why can't I? Like, why shouldn't I? Why should I stop? Like, why shouldn't I press this?" And Armand's that's, like, during the reveal, like, as he's, like, taking off his things, he's like, "'Cause I won't save you like I did then." And
Mhm.
so, during the initial interview, because like I mentioned in the beginning of this pod, Daniel was so high on drugs, he doesn't remember a lot of the initial interview back in the
Yeah.
70s. So, he doesn't really know how it ended, I guess. But I have a theory on that, but we can talk about it in a second. But oh wow. And like the last like thing is Louis being like, honestly, his face looks a little psychotic at the moment, but he's like
A little bit.
he's like the vampire Armand, the love of my life.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Somewhere Lestat is screaming.
Oh, yeah. So real quick, Amber, tell us
Yes.
about your theory about that revolves around Armand and maybe a gift that he possesses and why Daniel can't remember anything.
I think he has some kind of memory manipulation or
Mhm.
wipe of some sort because he is one of the I don't want to call him ancients, but because Akasha, whatever. We're not getting into Queen of the Damned yet, but
He's old.
he old.
He's old.
Yeah, bitch old. So
Did you just say the bitch is old? God, that's great. Continue.
He is.
Yeah, he's old.
I think because he says he was a drug addict at the time. Daniel was. He says that he was a drug addict at the time. He doesn't remember much, but like, how long did he know these people? Like, how long did he know Louis? Like, how long? Like, how? I don't know. It just seemed very, very interesting. I think that is some chunk of Daniel's memory that was wiped, and that also kind of like led me to spiral that, because like we've been saying, Louis does not have the best radar for romantic relationships.
None whatsoever.
He picks his people based off of toxicity levels, and he likes the color red. What can I say? He likes red flags.
Is it like one of the 7 deadly sins when you're not gluttonous, but you know what I'm saying? Like that's his thing. That's his jam, you know?
Yeah. I'm telling you, his favorite color is red because he loved them red flags.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
Well, if him and Armand is also very, very toxic, just like Lestat is, and that's why I was bringing up the mounted bookshelves on the ceiling, because Louis does not have the cloud gift. So how, like, this is just a huge prison, this building, because he doesn't leave.
Yeah.
He hasn't killed anyone since the 2000s, and it's because, like, has he part of it, most of it's probably because he doesn't want to, but also, has he even had the opportunity to? We don't know.
There's so much unknown. Yeah.
And one of his favorite pastimes is reading, but all of the books are mounted to the ceiling and he cannot fly.
Yeah.
He would have to, and I highly doubt he would, their living situation, and also, you know, they are dramatic, that they would not be lugging in a huge ladder for that.
Yeah.
That he would have to ask Armand, and like, that's controlling and manipulative and withdrawing his joys in afterlife. And also, like Louis likes nature. He likes being outside and having fresh air and being outside. He's like, and he has that artificial sunlight, artificial tree, artificial sand. Like, it's so controlling, and seeing the psychotic look on his face when he said, "The love of my life."
Oh, I know. It's like he's being brainwashed. It's very concerning.
I think Armand might have adjusted his memories of some sort, but
it's a great theory.
Or controlling him in more ways than we have yet to see, I guess. But
I agree.
Like, yeah, it is intense, and it's
intense.
There's just so much there, and I mean, I'm excited to see Armand because we're gonna see more of him in like future. Yeah, because I mean, they're making an entire universe of this, so I would be very, very surprised.
Right.
Yeah, but I'm very excited for season 2. I need it.
Me too. Yes, me too. And we'll be sure when that season does drop, we'll come back and do weekly episodes for it. And in the meantime, everyone, we do want to say thank you to those who joined us in the chat. Shout out once again to McDorks here in the chat, as well as Michael V. Hey, and also Mel from Geeking Out with Melly Mel. Thank you so much for being here. Hopefully you guys go and check out AMC's Anne Rice's interview with the vampire.
Really quick. I didn't see their questions in the comments that they were asking about the nail cutter and not having one. There's actually, in the Anne Rice novels, if you can't cut your hair, it'll grow back the way it was when you returned.
Yeah.
Like, you can't cut your hair.
Literally cannot do anything. You're perfect as
not
is.
Alter yourself. Like, your body will not allow yourself to change appearance once you are turned. So, but nails are like just a vampire thing. That's just one of the traits of it, just like having fangs.
Yeah.
it's one of the things of just being a vampire. But if you have a horrible haircut, you're stuck with it. It's
Yeah, Claudia learned that the hard way
Mhm.
in the 94 movie. So,
Mhm.
yeah. But we are just about to wrap. So, real quick, Amber, we do want to give a shout out once again to those who joined us. We also want
Thank
to
you.
invite everyone to follow the Watchers in the Basement here on YouTube. Don't forget to hit that like button if you've enjoyed this pod. And Amber, tell them really quickly about OllivAmber's Wands.
OllivAmber's Wands, that's my YouTube channel. It's study of wands and wand lore in the wizarding world. So that includes Harry Potter, Fantastic Beasts, and everything in between. It is an in-depth analysis of the wands from that series and that universe. And I psychoanalyze them and I go into the cultural, historical meanings behind it and talk about and compare it to the character who owns that wand. It's a lot of fun. So if you like Harry Potter, come see me there.
Always, always. So yeah, show Amber some love. Go give her a follow on her YouTube and
I,
Instagram. All of
I
her
am
details.
on the way to 200 subscribers. I
Yay!
have 182 as of this morning. So
Yay, that's
yes,
exciting. So
please
yeah,
join the ride.
all her details are in the description box down below. And lastly, be sure to follow the Watchers in the Basement on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And use the search. I'm sorry, I can't even think right now, at Watchers Basement in order to do so. But you can also use hashtag Watchers Basement to help grow our audience. Use it to tag us in articles, memes, you name it. Let us know. And we definitely want to know what you think about Interview with a Vampire. Finally, we also have audio podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify, thanks to Anchor.fm. Be sure to give us a 5-star rating. And that will conclude this review on Anne Rice's Interview with a Vampire. We hope you enjoyed it. And we'll be back eventually for a new pod.
Yes. Thank
Y'all
you,
have a great
everyone.
night.